Hello, friends, and happy Friday. My name is Steve, and welcome to the Friday Conversation, episode 83. It's great to have you. Hope you're having a great week. And we are here with some friends today, and RJ Barker is here with us as well. RJ, will you start us off with introductions and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I'm RJ, and that is what people call me, even before it was on the front of books. People have always called me RJ. I'm the author of 9 books, 7 of which are fantasy. I'll list them. Age of Assassins, Blood of Assassins, King of Assassins, The Bone Ships, Call of the Bone Ships, The Bone Ships Wake, and my newest one, which has just come out in the last few months, which is Gods of the Weirdwood. And that is massive, honestly. If you want value for your money per page, that's brilliant. And then if you're in the UK, I also write as RJ Dark, and there's 2 back books out under that name, which are A Numbers Game and another one called Incy Wincy, but they're crime novels, completely different. I live in Leeds, which is in the north of England, which is the best bit of the United Kingdom, closely followed by Belfast.
I would say you have that in the right order, RJ, for sure.
I live in a very old building with my wife and my son, and our house is full of strange things. Old taxidermy, weird art, very noisy music, and a cat that hates everybody, who I adore. I just love him, but he hates everyone. He's odd. But I love him so much. And that's me. Pleased to meet you.
Awesome. Good to have you. And our friend Paromita's here. Will you give us an introduction, Paromita?
Hello, everyone. My name is Paromita. I'm a general reader, and I'm a member of the Page Forum. Thank you for having me.
Of course, you're welcome anytime. And somebody I've never seen before, I'm not sure who would let this guy here, but Chris?
Yes, my name's Chris Mohan, and I'm sometimes YouTuber, sometimes just appear on other people's channels when they give me the opportunity to chat with other cool people.
Nice.
And I have to say, RJ his Twitter is an inspiration to me on a daily basis, because I measure my own productivity against RJ's when he just lists how many words he's written that day, and I go, yeah, it was a good day, it was a bad day, but never feel too guilty, which is a nice place to start from every day.
You mean X, right? Is it X now? I'm teasing. Yeah. But before we started recording, we were talking about writing, and those of us who are writers and not writers. But RJ, you were about to say something really brilliant, and I wanted to get it on because I wanted to hear your perspective on this. And, because I had mentioned that I don't write. I've tried a few times, but I always feel like I'm just regurgitating things I've absorbed. So I kind of feel, and then I read other books that I really love, and it's like I can never do that. So I just feel like, why bother? So what are your thoughts on people? And you mentioned unique voices. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, you absolutely can do it. And the start, or you start off that regurgitating what you know is a way of learning. It's normal. That's pretty sure my first stuff was hugely derivative of whatever I was reading that week. Whether you want to do it, that's another thing entirely, because it's not a short process, and there are no shortcuts, and it's one of those weird things that I was talking to somebody else about this, is that the most important thing in writing for me is actually getting the confidence to sit and write, and the only way you can get the confidence to sit and write is by sitting and writing. And it's a catch-22 that kind of eats its own tail. And I think to some degree you need a compulsion. You need to really want to do it. Most of the writers I know couldn't stop. It's not that they want, they just can't. They don't know how, they have to do it. That sounds a lot more dramatic than it really is. It's more like just a niggling. It's a habit. It becomes such a habit you just can't stop yourself.
I have to say, any time that I have written, it's usually something short, pithy, and an attempt to be witty, which means I've got about 300 words, and then my ability to be funny is lost at that point. But it is almost like a compulsion at that stage. I used to write like little match reports for our Sunday League football team, and if I didn't write it like first thing in the Monday morning after the Sunday, it never happened. It was just like the moment was gone and the compulsion was gone. So I definitely relate to that.
Yeah, I think that's why this horrid thing people say is write every day, which I think is actually terrible and massively unrealistic advice, because not everybody can. You just can't. It's not possible. But I'm lucky enough that I do it for a living and I don't have a real job. So I have to write every day, because my wife will come and ask me why I'm still playing Fallout if I don't. Which it's very unfair that COVID meant she comes and works at home now. It's just ruined it for me. So I do that, but I don't. I do kind of get. The thing is that to becoming a professional writer is that you can't anymore rely on the muse. You have to force it. But if you sit and you make yourself do it, it will happen. And whenever I've sat and I've thought, oh God, I'm just not in the mood. Generally, they end up my best days. I don't know why. It just seems to be the way of it. But learning to write short, as you were saying, Chris, is a really good skill. Because short stories are a really good way of starting if somebody's interested. I wrote short stories for years and got nothing published. Oh no, I made $5 once. And it took me 13 years to go, from deciding I was going to write to actually getting published. That was 13 years that took. And $5 over 13 years, that's not minimum wage, is it?
No, it's not quite.
No.
It might become the minimum wage the way economics in Britain are going, but you know.
What about you, Paromita? Do you write?
No, not at all. I mean, if I ever write, someday it would probably be non-fiction. I love reading fiction, but I don't think I would be able to write.
I think you have to find the joy in it. I love to do it. That's why I do it. I don't do anything that I don't love to do because I'm a terrible human being like that, and just cannot be counted on to do anything that might be unpleasant. But I think you need that. I think you need it for any kind of creative job, because it's precarious at best, unless you're selling millions of books. Then it's kind of a bit, you're only as good as your last book, and you never know if people are going to like it, and it's just like, oh, why am I doing this? And then it comes out and people want to talk to you and you're like, yes. I love doing this.
You mentioned you don't have a real job, but I would imagine being an author is a 24/7 type of thing where it's always on your mind. You're always thinking about stories or something related to the craft.
I'd love to say yes.
Okay.
But I should say yes. It makes me sound more impressive. But I was once talking to a friend of mine who he said, "You're such a happy person. How do you manage that?" And I was thinking about that. Thinking, well, actually, when I'm not specifically concentrating on stuff, everyone else I know they're like worrying about things, but I just have static in my head. I'm just like, there's nothing there. I'm just completely empty and just sort of wandering around. And so I can switch off unless I've had a really good idea. In which case, that's quite different. But it's really, I'm trying to describe it. I've kind of, over the years, because I've been doing it since 2016, so that's six years now, I've learned more to compartmentalize what I'm doing. Because for the first 4 or 5 books, I would do too much. And I'm quite poorly, I'm chronically ill. So that will physically limit me. I'll run out of energy, and I would constantly do that and sort of run into this wall. So I've learned to hold back. But then every so often, I'll hit an idea and I'll be really excited about it, and I will just write. I've got a book that's going to market in the next month, and I wrote that in, I think, 5 weeks.
Wow.
Because it was a good idea and I had it in my head. And part of me knows that I've got books on contract that I have to deliver, so right, I'm just going to write this really quickly. So I just wrote it. And that tends to be how my mind works. The ones that I'm already meant to be writing, it's the classic grass is greener thing. The things that I'm not meant to doing are far more interesting than what I am meant to be doing. I'm just like, oh, I'm not meant to be writing this book, and no one has asked for it, but I'm going to write it. But I have to write it quickly, and I'm excited, and just go off, and then go back to the one I'm meant to be doing, which is kind of more complicated, and you actually have to think about it. I don't like work. I don't like having to think. It's difficult. Once you're in book 2 or 3 of a trilogy, you have to make sure that you're referring back to the first 2 books, and sensible people, a lot of my writer friends, they keep notes, but that's not me. No, I don't.
It's as well you don't have complex words or anything to kind of follow.
No.
You've done a good job there.
It's quite the first book's the assassin books. This is the most me thing I've ever done. In that I did this. It's obviously stupid to anybody you tell it to, and I learnt nothing from it. In the assassin books, there's a way of fighting, and it's made into a dance, and each bit of this dance has names and numbers. And I finished the first book and I sent it off, and that was brilliant because it sold and it got published, and I was very, very happy. And it came to writing the second one, which I promised I could deliver in 6 months, because that was the publisher asked me, "Can you?" And I said, "Yeah, of course I can." And I didn't even think that I'd have to be editing the first one while I'm writing the second one. So that wasn't so. It was a bit hard, I thought, but fun. But did I write down these numbers of this fight anywhere at all? No, I didn't. And then when I'd made up new ones for the second book, did I do it again? Yes, exactly the same thing. Didn't write it down. And then with the bone ships, because I don't know if people know what the bone ships is. It's like a naval fantasy. I love Patrick O'Brien and Hornblower and that sort of thing. But if you read about sort of sailing ships of the 17th century, they're really complicated. They are so complicated, and I'm naturally very lazy, so I thought, rather than learning all that, because it's almost impossible, you have to be in that world, and or give yourself 3 years to just do nothing but that. I'm going to make up my own version of all these terms for sailing stuff, which is quite possibly the stupidest thing I've ever done in my life. It'd be less stupid if I'd written it down or I'd kept a Bible or something like that, but I didn't do any of that. I just made it up as I went along, and it all kind of folds back into the world, and there's a logic to it and everything, but that doesn't help you when it's like a year later and you're on book 3 and you're like, well, I understand why I called it that. You just end up, what I do is I write and I just leave gaps with XXX so I can come back and find them while I'm reading the first book again. I'm going, oh God.
I was going to say that really works because it gives the book such character, if you know what I mean. The only thing it didn't help with, because I started listening to it in audio, and I'm one of those people when I'm even listening to audio, I kind of need to visualise the words sometimes, and because some of them are made up, RJ, if you know what I mean, I was like, no, and I need to go and have the book as a reference every now and again just to look at, and once I say it once I'll be fine. And while the audio narration is quite brilliant in Bone Chips, there definitely was a point where I had to go, oh, what way is that spelled? Okay, I got you.
It's a chap called Jude Owusu, and he's lovely, and he's a Shakespearean actor, and he's hugely talented, and I don't think he'd done a fantasy book before, and you kind of, people have like preconceptions coming to a fantasy book, and I don't know if he did. This might just be me imagining it, but he sent me the loveliest letter when he finished the first book and just said it wasn't what he was expecting at all. And then when he finished the trilogy, I made him cry. I was like, yes. I've been made to cry as well, and that is gold stars for a writer. I didn't say cry at it, that's a lie. He said it made him emotional. But
you take from that what you want, you know?
Yeah, I'm going to say it cried. That's the same, almost. Really.
I've had that conversation with my own children when they have been watching something, reading something, and they kind of, through the first experience of being really emotional in the book, like I remember my son just threw it across the room and just started bawling. And like I could hear the howling over the house, and I had to sit him down after I got the breathing exercises, head between the legs, etc. that kind of stuff done, to kind of say, you do realise how you will spend the rest of your life searching for things that promote strong emotions in quite the same way. Like you're repulsed by it at the moment, but let me tell you, for the rest of your life you'll be going, I just need to find something else that does exactly that again, because that's the real power of storytelling in any form.
And the older you get, the harder it gets, because your sort of pool of experience starts to turn into a point when you're. There's different types of reader, and all are valid, and some people are looking for nostalgia and the familiar, but I never am. I'm always looking for new. I'm looking for something that I've not seen before, and I read a lot. I tend to read out of genre. You know, that tends to be most of the thing. And I love it when I'm amazed. Adrian Tchaikovsky's Children of books. I don't know if you've read those. They're just, I don't know how he does it. They're just astounding. Blew me up. He's a friend of mine. He lives near me, does Adrian, so we meet up every so often. But that's just, you know, I hate him. Just hi, Adrian. I'm going to poison you next time we meet up, because not only are you really good, but you write so much, and it's just not fair on the rest of us. Really, Adrian, stop it. But yeah, and his fantasy is equally as inventive and wonderful. It's unfair, to be honest with you. Stay in your lane, Tchaikovsky. Just stay in your science fiction lane. Let us get on with our dragons and stuff without you interfering.
We actually spoke with Adrian yesterday.
Yesterday?
Yeah.
Was it?
Yesterday. Yeah.
Did you?
No, he's lovely. Yeah.
He is lovely.
So charming.
Yeah.
And
clever. He's really clever. I love spending time with Adrian. And knows so much about. He's kind of like an encyclopedia of the genre, where I'm like this hollow bell with nothing in it that just talks about nonsense.
See, I would say from the outside, you've sort of got a similar vein running through your kind of your world building, in that it's constructed not from a singular idea, but it's almost like a construct. Obviously, Adrian stuff, you know, around the spiders and space and all of that kind of botanical kind of stuff. But I'd even say something from bone chips. Well, it's never actually stated. A world without wood, you know, and the kind of follow through of that, what that means, and how you can create like a rare resource that becomes the centre part of a book, while also being this kind of visual thing in my head of when dragons or something will appear. Like you probably don't realise, but I still think that the bone chips is the right answer to what is the show you would most like to see adapted by HBO, because I just think the first appearance of something like a sea dragon would be like something that would just be all over TikTok and, you know, that kind of thing, and be different enough that it wouldn't be just copycat of something.
But we have spoken to people about turning the bone chips into a film, and they turned around and said, we love the book, but do you know what the two most expensive things to film are? They're dragons and then ships. And so we didn't really get past that when my agent was speaking to them about films. But maybe one day. I don't know. I mean, we've spoken to them about Weirdwood as well, but I think they're waiting for the whole thing to come out, because it's only the first book out so far. But it's kind of, television and film is mad. It's just really weird. You just let your stuff out there and hope somebody be interested. But I would love to see the bone ships. Have you seen Tom Parker's pictures that he did for the bone ships?
I don't think so. No.
He's the guy who did the map, and he did all the chapter headers in them.
Beautiful.
Yeah, he's hugely talented, and he has a page on Facebook called Tom Parker Illustration. He's mad as a box of frogs. I love him. I've known him. People are. Yeah, I've known him for years and years and years. We met in a goth club one night, and just hit it off and spent the whole night talking. And that is the only time we've ever met in real life. We've just kind of stayed in touch. But yeah, on his Facebook page there are some of the pictures he did for the bone ships, because he did some when we pitched it. He did some proof of concept drawings as well, just because he wanted to. He was excited by the idea of it, and they're really beautiful. They did some special editions for the Anda reader, and there's a picture of his version of the dragon and then a ship, and the ship's tiny. Tom does this thing that you can buy it. I can never remember where from, but it's about 1 metre by 1 metre, and it's a big picture of a haunted house. And it must have 200 or 300 rooms in it, and each one is themed around a science fiction or fantasy film or book or something. And you can go in. He loves tiny details. It took him 10 years. Told you, man, it's a box of frogs. And you can go in and look at the tiny details in each room that he's put in there, and then you sort of stand there looking at it, and then you realise it's a maze. So you go in the front door and you have to find your way out the back. And it's just... What were you thinking when you started that? But yeah, he does. He lives in Taiwan, and he does some very weird maps and floating fish, and I love him. I love everybody, Dan. That's like, I like people. Mm-hmm. I think that helps when you're a writer, because books are nothing without people.
How do you make your characters relatable or compelling in your books? How do you, because you're creating them from scratch or bringing them into the reader's mind, how do you develop them and make them feel like they're real people?
There's one thing in the back of my head. There's a Leeds-based writer called Mark Catley who writes for television, who I went on a course and he was taking it. It was a course for theatre writing that I'd got on by accident because I wasn't paying attention. There is a theme in my life. But anyway, I really enjoyed it, and I wrote some stuff for theatre which got performed, and that was lovely. But he told me this thing about characters, which is what makes a good character is that they want something, and they need something. And in a perfect world, they don't know what they need, but they know what they want. And also, what they want and they need are diametrically opposed, which creates tension. So, Kahan, I don't know if you've read Gods of the Weirdwood, he wants to be left alone. He desperately wants just everyone to go away and leave him alone to sulk for the rest of his life. But what he needs is a big hug. And that's kind of the thing that his character was built on, that idea that he can't accept that he needs other people. And it's the same for Alden Joran in The Bone Ships. He thinks when you meet him that he wants to escape, when actually he doesn't. He wants to be part of this world. He's just terrified of it. And I'm very careful about spoilers, because it's really easy to spoil the sort of long journey of the Bone Ships, which I can't spoil a weird one because I've not finished it yet. I'm quite near, but I'm being really careful. So I do that with characters, and also you want to create people who have an interior. I love the word interiority, which I think I've probably made up. I don't think it's in the dictionary, but I'm using it anyway. That they should all feel like they've got their own little world going on. That they want something. They're not created as ciphers for your character to do stuff. They're there to do their own thing, and they come into contact with that person, and they come across them, which is what you're trying. But when I say that, that's all very subconscious in the way I work. I don't actually think about it. I just sit and write a book. That's my way of doing it, and then I have to work out all this stuff later on. That when people ask me questions, and I go, oh, I did a thing called Croncast where they pick a book and you all read the book and then you talk about it. And we did Watership Down, which I love Watership Down. It's my desert island book is Watership Down. And they said, oh, and you clearly the Ghalem in the Bone Ships is you rewriting Kihar from Watership Down, and I'd never realised that until they said it. And as soon as they said it, I was like, yes, yeah, I did rip that off. I entirely ripped that off for that character, and then it worked. And I think all writers do that. We do it a lot. We take things we love and we put them in something different. Because the Bone Ships is Patrick O'Brien's Aubrey Maturin put into a fantasy world, and then having an increasingly horrible series of things happen to the people in the book. And that was, I can't remember who gave me that tip. Said, if you're stuck, just have something terrible happen to someone.
Plus, it's full of characters, and a part of this is Joran's mindset, if you know what I mean, that's sort of like that you're constantly wary of everybody. You know, everybody that comes in the book, they are a threat to Joran's desire probably to run away and hide, as you say, you know, not be bothered in any way, and well, that translates to the reader.
Yeah,
and they're like, oh, I don't know if I trust anybody, you know, even though they're not really doing anything overt.
And I think looking backwards, retconning it, as I believe is the word we like to use, I think I wanted to, because there are, for those that don't know, they're a ship of criminals and bad people, and I wanted to make you like them, when of course you shouldn't, because they're bad people, although there are some less bad people coming along later, but and that creates tension as well. It's all about creating tension and pulling the reader forward into the next bit and making them want to see, especially when I write books that take a little bit of time to get going. So he said generously to himself when I started got to the weird one, I told my editor, right, I'm going to write something. It's based loosely on Robin Hood. It's going to be really fast paced and it's going to be short. And I failed in every single one of those things entirely. And she just thought it was hysterical, because she'd said at the beginning, she's going, "You're not." I know you're not. Just going, that's what I'll do. So it was none of those things. Sorry.
I was going to ask. Well, I have two questions, but I don't know which to ask first. Let's flip a coin. One thing I wanted to ask you a bit about. You mentioned genre labels, and I was doing a bit of reading on your previous interviews, and one thing really resonated with me, which is also something one of my very favorite writers also was saying in an interview. You were asked, did you always set out to be a fantasy author? And you said something that I write what I write, and incidentally it is shelved as fantasy. And this is something very similar to what my very the favorite author I was listening to, Susanna Clarke, also said. She said that I have no problem being addressed as a fantasy author, but that is typically, that label is not really helpful to a writer. It is more for the bookshops and the readers when we are looking for similar things. So I just wondered whether you still have that viewpoint, or has it changed in any way?
No, I don't think of myself as a... I mean, I am a fantasy writer in that's what I write. But before I sold a book, the two books that I completed were a crime novel, then a science fiction novel, and then it was a fantasy novel that sold. And I really feel like genre is just the clothes that stories about people wear, and I write about people, and I love to write. And if something happened tomorrow and they said, right, you can only write crime or you can only write science fiction from now, I'd be equally as happy to do it, because it's the act of creation that I like. It just happens my agent has got really good at selling fantasy good books from me. So when I write other things, he's like, hey, you sure about this? What about a fantasy novel? Yeah. So yeah, but I have no great preference. And fantasy is such a broad church. It's massive. And people, when you say fantasy, people think, oh, right, orcs and elves, that's what you write, which I don't. So it's kind of it's weird how massive it is and how very narrow a lot of people's perception of it is. So I don't think there's any shame in it, because I think there's some, like Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, that book is just astounding, and it's a fantasy book, and yeah, it's amazing.
I keep requesting everyone, and they're like 1,000 pages, and I'm like, but you're reading like 9,000 page novels.
It's really hard to sell to people, because it's like, yes, it's very long and not very much happens, but it's really good, and the language is
magic.
Yeah, the language is really mannered. It's not easy to get into, but I love books like that. I love books that create a bar and ask you to get over them. I think the Bone Ships does that as well. I think it's kind of, you have to learn what it's talking about before you can enjoy it. which is either a good thing or a bad thing depending on yours. Yeah, I think. And what was the other question, Paromita?
So this is like two questions in one, so I'm cheating a bit. But one of the things that I like to do, one thing I should say first of all is I read Gods of the Weird Wood first, because I looked at all the synopsis and I was like, this is the one which is most fun and this is for me. And for some bizarre reason, because of the synopsis, I was like, this is related to Mithago Wood by Robert Holstock. Like that is one of the influences. I was totally wrong on that. Once I read the book, I mean, it could be Arthuriana and maybe a little bit of Robin Hood, which you mentioned, but I mean, I don't think there's a concrete, I didn't find a concrete, but it's fun. Like, I think I was looking up your other worlds, and I was thinking, what could be the influences? Because it's not direct fantasy. So what are the classics? So I was like, the moorlands in the first one, is it like Wuthering Heights? And then the ships in the second ones, is it like Moby Dick? I was having a lot of fun just predicting influences and probably being totally off. But one thing I really wanted to ask...
carry on.
Sorry, please go ahead. One thing which I really wanted to ask is, though I have not read the first two series, there seems to be this motif of connection with nature in the settings for your world. Whether it is the moorlands, whether it is the sea, and whether it is this very deep connection with the woods, with the forest, as this mysterious element, but also this element to be sort of revered and respected. So is there that common motif of connection to nature that you express through your book?
There really is. And it's weird because some people can read the stuff and just not notice it. I mean, the Button Ships is about people who have destroyed their ecology. They've misused it and destroyed their world, and now it's diminishing. And the Assassin books are similar in a very different way, but it's funny you said about Wuthering Heights, because I live in Wuthering Heights territory, and it's not so much the book, but the places are places that I've always been, and the moors on that. I know the genesis of those books because we were travelling to Whitby, and I saw I can't remember where, we got terribly lost, and I saw an open cast mine, which was this huge scar on the land. And it just set my mind off, and that's where the idea of this magic that they use in it that sucks the life out of the land, and then nothing will ever grow again once the magician has done something. And of course, magicians are not popular because of this. And their magic is physically black. And it was kind of this metaphor for oil. That's what I was talking about all the way through. It's power that's pulled from the land and kills it. And no one ever asked me about that. One day somebody will, but you have, Paromita, so that's excellent. So yeah, I love nature. I adore it. I love the moors, and I love the sea. I think the sea is the one that I like the most because it's always changing, and it's beautiful, and it wants to kill you. Well, it doesn't even want to kill you. It just will. It doesn't care about you. It will kill you just because you happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. And woods, I grew up very near woods. It's funny you mentioned Mithago Wood, because I won the Robert Holstock Award for the Bone Ships. And his widow sent me a copy of Mithago Wood, which I had not read up until that point, even though it's a classic of fantasy. And I did read it, and it's absolutely brilliant. But when I was 16, 17, I had a Commodore 64, and there was a game called Elite, which was yes.
Some of us are of a certain age, aren't we?
Yeah, it's flying a spaceship game. And with that game came a novella called The Dark Wheel. And I adored that. And Robert Holstock wrote it. And I never knew that. And that was kind of a connection. But I've just actually written a short story for a collection of short stories that's coming out that are all based on Mithago Wood. By an editor called Dan Coxon. So clearly you were seeing the future to some degree there, Paromita. So yeah, but yeah, I love nature, and it frightens me. And I think I've got deserts yet to go, so that will be my next thing. Will be already started Deserts and Heat, and that's what's in my head for the next big fantasy thing. And then there's another thing that I'm not meant to talk about, but I probably will. That I've already written, and surprised my agent with, and it's kind of it's based in a city, and it's kind of a murder mystery, and because I love a murder mystery.
I love a murder mystery.
Yeah.
I love a murder mystery.
I love murder mysteries too, and this is going to be my question at some point, but
Well,
I will wait for the others to ask.
so that's hopefully that will be published next year or the year after if somebody likes it enough. Even though your book's published doesn't mean that, because they might go, nobody really wants to read fantasy murder mysteries. You can't tell, but I love it, and it's. I can see that you're all sensible people, and it's funny. I always think people must be really disappointed when they buy my books after seeing me do an interview somewhere when I'm really silly, and then they read the books and they're just like, oh my god, this is quite harsh, isn't it? It's not happy, and where this is different, and it is kind of amusing, and it has footnotes that I had to fight my agent over them. He did not like the footnotes, but it might not end up having footnotes when it comes out. You never know, but I really like them. Anyway, talking about
I think you've got good instincts, RJ. I think you've got good instincts, and I often think, regardless of anything else, like the worst thing that you could do is kind of write to a pattern, especially given the kind of path that your books have taken in terms of the world building that you've done and the kind of ways that you've set them. You kind of go with write with what you want to write, and the rest will be good.
It is genuinely terrifying though when you, because all good censorers says like, do a thing and then write something next that's a bit like it, and I am just like Adrian Tchaikovsky's the same as well. He can't do that. He can't. He just is like, no, just think, I've got a different idea. But then when you kind of get to releasing that book, the first I've got Crohn's disease, which I'm all right most of the time. I get some really good drugs, but which is important, and usually I'm not ill, but one of the sort of triggers for it is stress, and I'm not a stressy person. I'm really chill, but the run up to a book, I always have some sort of relapse, even though I'm not feeling stressed. So clearly, it's kind of working in the back of your head, and then it comes out. People like it, and you're like, thank God. Now, hopefully, lots of people will buy it as well.
One of the things that I'm always interested in is, say you release a book, RJ, right? And you release it, and it certainly finds an audience. But then somewhere down the line, it really finds like a group where, you know, it gets like new life. And I think I've seen that with your books a couple of times, actually. You know, what is that like as an author when you kind of think, you know, traditional media would say that, you know, you have a shelf life and it passes and you have to release something new. Whereas I think books are definitely, because probably the limit the time that it takes people to actually get through them, they kind of come back round, you know, and it kind of get rebirth.
Well, my agent, who's a chap called Ed Wilson, and his agency are called Johnson Allcock, and he's a lovely man. When I first signed with him, he told me books are a long game, and he said it's because I signed, and he said it's not like the biggest advance in the world. Don't get excited. And then he told me a figure that was more money than I've ever seen in my entire life. It is not a very high bar, admittedly, but it was still quite impressive to me. But he said. He just said, "Don't worry. It's better to take a smaller advance, and then we'll make it in royalties, and the books will keep going." And he's been right in that, and it kind of each book talks back to the ones before it as well. So people that pick up Weirdwood and read it, and then get to the end and realise that the next one's not out yet, get annoyed and email me to tell me as if I can. I'm sorry, I'm writing as fast as I can. I did take the 6-week holidays off. It's my family's fault. They come and talk to me when I'm trying to write. It's just, and you can't lock your child in a cupboard. It's just not done anymore, especially when he's 13 and he's huge.
Bring back the 80s.
Yeah.
Margaret Thatcher wasn't all bad.
Yeah, send him on a YTS course. But people are like, well, then go back and they'll read the other ones, and they'll go. And there are some people who will love one thing and then and it's always the first review of I see a new book is the one person who well, there's not one, there's probably quite a lot of them, but it's the one that I see. It's the person who loved a series of books and has read the next one and absolutely hates the new one. And I'm just like, oh no, I've done it wrong. I've got it wrong. But then more reviews come in and you kind of remember that it's a bigger picture than the one person. And that's cool, actually, because it proves you that you're changing, that it's not always for the same audience. It's not particularly sensible from a career point of view, but I'm not doing it for that. I'm doing it because I like writing stuff.
No, I may continue. Cool.
I think it was.
By digressing wildly, I usually do.
I think it was Richard Nell who said writing a book is like telling a joke and then waiting 3 months for the laugh. Yeah, like it's like you just sit there and wait. So
that is brilliant. I'm stealing that.
Yeah.
I'm totally having it. It's fantastic. What a brilliant explanation it is. Yeah, it's so weird. And really, the oddest thing is you have all these. There's this image of like us being these solitary creatures, but we're not sort of traditionally published authors. We've got our agent, who's like your mate, and we've got our editor, who's like your mate, and then there's the marketing people, who tell you everything that you want is wrong and change it, and you have to listen to them because they understand my books. It's really strange. They'll send you a cover and you go, I don't like that cover. That's not my book. And they go, no, but it will make people buy your book. Actually, this is agent. I don't know if you've ever talked much about agents on this, but agents are brilliant. There have been points when I've got something and I've said, no, I don't like this. I don't like this. My agent editor's gone, don't worry about that. You're right. I will sort it. And he goes out to bat for me. Because you don't want to fall out with your editor, because me and my editor have a really good relationship. So he does all the kind of stuff. And then other times I'll go to him and say, Ed, I don't like this. I think it's terrible and it's wrong. And he will go, shut up, RJ. It's not. And you're being precious. And I'm, okay then. I'll shut up in that case. But it's and you have all these people around you, and it's really lovely. And my press officer, who's great, who sort of arranges me to go and do a lot of stuff, and terrifying, just terrifying. One of the few people I don't forget when she gives me a date. I'm like, yeah, I'll remember that, because you'll shout at me if I don't want that.
It's good to have people like a mix of people like that in your life, though. To be fair, ones that you can lean on in different situations.
It's a really weird thing, because all my life I've been a bit of an oddball, a bit eccentric, and becoming a writer was the first time I've ever just thought, I fit in here. People understand what I'm talking about at least 80% of the time, which is just like double everyone else. Which was really nice. It kind of felt like coming home. Where every other job I've done, I've been very definitely the odd person. I go on with everybody because I do, but it's been very definite. Going, you're a bit weird, aren't you? We like you, but you're not right. There's something weird about you. And I also hated every other job I had with a desperate passion. Where this I love it, and it's that terrible thing. Your hobby is your job. We just like, so you can very easy not to stop, but we've covered that. Yeah. Let's not repeat ourselves. Let's be professional.
I once had somebody come up to me and tell me, it was a friend of my sister's who was with, and I hadn't seen her in years, and was out one night and we just got talking to her, and she went, oh God, you were really weird when you were younger, but you're all right now. But no thanks,
Is that because you've got more normal, or because they've got weirder and not noticed?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or maybe I've learned social skills or observed social skills, or I don't know. Yeah. There's a meeting in the mind somewhere in the middle where we're all the same.
Just out of curiosity, what are your favourite books? I think Parmita already said it was Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell for you. Was it? Yeah.
Yes. I mean, when
Any book,
favorite
any
fantasy
book.
book?
I don't put no borders.
Oh God! I mean that is tough. That is so tough. I love Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. I love Tolkien. I love Gormenghast by Mervyn Peake. Love Blood in the Mist by Hope Merlis. Those are like the fantasy cornerstones I can think of. I love most of what Ursula K. Le Guin has written. General fiction, I love Dickens. I like Oscar Wilde, Victor Hugo. If you ask me who's my top author, it's Agatha Christie. No
we are
competition.
big Agatha fans in this house.
Send me on a desert island with her book, and that's I don't
my
need
wife collects Agatha Christie first editions. So
Wow.
she's
This is the right way.
she loves Agatha Christie and Georgette Heyer. They are her two great literary loves. So if you like Agatha, you might like Georgette Heyer if you've not tried her. There
you
go. What about you, Steve? Let's put Steve on.
I was gonna. That's a tough one. It's kind of tough to answer because there's a lot of books that stick out for different reasons. But if I had to think back, the one that really got me into reading and really opened my eyes to what a book can do, because I didn't know, maybe between Sphere and Jurassic Park, I think would be the two that I would, because I just didn't know a book could make you could elicit those kind of emotions and kind of take you on that kind of experience. So I think those were, if I had to pick, probably one of those, maybe Sphere, because it's more of the story, I think, kind of fit what I was enjoying. But I had intended to read the book and then watch the movie, and then once I read the book, I was like, I don't have to watch the movie. I'm good. Like, so yeah. So
and Chris.
Mine, I'm definitely one of those people that has grown up and found fantasy through the mobile libraries that used to come into your street, etc. And there'd about 12 books that you'd pick from over a period of about 3 years. Like every book that you read was like the new best book that you'd ever read, So I kind of started with like Terry Brooks, like the Shannara series, kind of started there, and I thought these are just incredible. Like, it's just the world. Every time I close my eyes, I see that world, and then you'd move on. But I think if I had to pick one, I would say something. I would probably say Jenny Wirtz and Remedy Weiss, the Empire trilogy. I love. There's something about female characters that I think of already. I hadn't thought about this until very recently, until people started bringing it up and not talking about female characters, people hating them, and I was like. But I think of all my favourite music, that's kind of thing. So the Empire trilogy would be one. And I'd say recently, I've really kind of fallen for Philip K. Dick's kind of philosophical sci-fi. I just, a lot of it's short, but it just kind of blows my mind. This kind of simple ideas and kind of just a couple of lines in there and just go, oh my God, this man is brilliant.
Same. Philip K. Dick. Yeah, it's one of my favorite. Which one is your favorite? Mine is Flow My Tears.
Well,
the
my favourite
said.
so far
That's
is The Unread Stream of Electric Sheep. I honestly think the first chapter of that should just be put up on walls around the place for people to read, because the amount of ideas and things that he was kind of thinking about are just, I mean, my brain doesn't go that big.
I was thinking, because I've said watch it down. Fantasy specific. There's a book by C.J. Cherryh called The Chronicles of Morgaine, which blew my mind when I read it.
Was it Johnny was talking about C.J.
Yeah,
Cherryh, wasn't it? I think it was.
Yeah,
wasn't
Johnny
it?
recommended that author to us. Yeah, and I have it open on my. I still have the window open on my browser to go back. But yeah, she had recommended that.
I didn't know that the Chronicles of Morgaine is her debut as well, and it's just it's basically everything. I got this email once that said, "You seem to like quite powerful women and less powerful men," and there was a definite leer in this email, as if to say, "Hey, do you? Is that what you like? You like a strong woman?"
A couple of subreddits to recommend you.
Yeah, and I had to write back and disappoint the poor man and say, I just like people, but I really love the Chronicles of Morgaine, and they're based around a barbarian called Vanya, and he narrates it, And there is quite a high bar to the language. He uses a kind of different meter. And this warrior queen called Morgaine, who turns up and can do amazing magic, sort of, and nothing in it is what you think. And I think both Girton and Merrill in a way, and Joran and Mayas in a way, and me rehashing that book and then Kahan isn't. That's something different. I'm not quite sure what Kahan is, but I really love James Lee Burke, the crime writer. I don't know if you come across him. He writes Deep South based crime novels about a police officer called Dave Robichaud, and they have a very, very light supernatural touch, but they're beautifully written. And then his latest one is called My Private Cathedral, and I think he just thought, fuck it, I'm going all in. And they're chased by a 1,000-year-old supernatural hitman from hell, and the end of the book is a showdown on a ferry over the River Styx. And there's just nothing like that in the rest of them. The rest of them are just quite sort of police procedurals set in the Deep South with the occasional touch of something a bit mysterious. And then this book's just like, no, everything. And at no point do you question anything he writes. It's so clever. It's astounding writing. And then Blood Meridian, probably by Cormac McCarthy, which I will never read again, but I loved in a really... And I have a theory about that. I always want to ask people who've read it, and I have, and most of them have gone, shut up, you're an idiot, you're wrong. But I don't think I am. And Cormac McCarthy's dead now, so I'm going to claim he told me I was right.
I was going to say, you have the right answer and nobody can dispute it anymore. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I do. But it's a brilliant and awful book, which is quite clever.
Yeah. I should have some Stephen King in there, but I always famously love the first 90% of his books, and then not so much the last 10%.
I've never got on with Stephen King stuff. I don't know. I think it's too American, something in it. And I love American books, but there's something about that sort of small town, little family that just doesn't click with me. I do a podcast with a couple of other writers called Kit. I could start calling him Skip. That'll drive him mental. You'll hear that so much. Kit Power, who's a horror writer, and Scott K. Andrews, who's he's written all sorts of books, and he's written for radio and stuff like that. And our podcast is called Writopolis. And Kit adores Stephen King. He just loves Stephen King. Just cannot understand my inability to get on with it. So we just make fun of each other constantly.
I mean, I do understand it because he's such a unique authorial voice. Like, you know, I can see, because he's so different. The only book that I'd read recently that I thought, actually, this is a bit like it, was Richard Matheson's I Am Legend. I think he has a similar sort of style in that, but everybody else, like, I never see it appear in anybody else. So I could see if somebody didn't like that kind of style of internalization or something, the kind of like deep and dark part that he does. I tried not getting on the
Dark Tower, and I didn't get on with that either.
No,
it annoys me because I really want to like it, but there's just something. It's
same. I tried with the first two books, couldn't.
It's Neil Gaiman is the same for me. I love his short fiction. I think he's an extraordinary short fiction writer, but I don't get on with his novels, and I don't know why. It just doesn't quite click, and that is all right. It's not. We shouldn't like everything.
I was going to say, luckily there are lots of books.
We're
not too far away from it.
Yeah, I've just discovered Dennis Lehane, who.
Oh yes.
Why did nobody tell me about Dennis Lehane? I'm actively angry with the entire world about this, because they're wonderful. So I've got the whole lot of Dennis Lehane to work through, so that's quite fun for me.
That's always exciting.
Same. I have only read Mystic River and Shutter Island. They were fantastic, and I'm like, why haven't I read this before?
I'm reading his. My favourite thing in books is kind of like the classic detective and his friend. So I'm reading through the. Oh, God, I forgot the name. I was literally reading it before I was talking to you. I just put it down. But it's two detectives, and they're just really well observed. And you can see there's a massive debt to Robert B. Parker, who wrote the Spencer books, which I love. And a lot of authors I love have that debt. Cause, there's this Robert Crace, whose work is amazing, and Harlan Coben, whose work is also amazing. John Connolly and I love both the Connollys and cannot for the life of me remember which one writes what.
So Michael Connolly writes Harry Bosch.
Yes, which is brilliant. And have you seen the TV version of it?
It's so good. Like honestly, like it's perfect.
Did you have the reaction I had when it first started? I just looked at him and thought, "You are not Harry Bosch." And then within about 10 minutes, I was like, yes, you are very much Harry Bosch.
Titus Welliver just absolutely has that, for sure.
Yeah, he's just nailed it. And they're doing The Lincoln Lawyer on Netflix.
That's right. So the Lincoln Lawyer books are owned by one company, and the Michael Connolly, Harry Bosch are owned by another company. So we get two streaming services with two different depictions, and they shall never meet. You can have
if you know all the books, you can have great fun picking out which character. Oh, you're Harry Bosch. And you're the Lincoln Lawyer, but you can't have you in this. So I love that. I was trying to think what. Yeah. We've gone
It's funny, I used to read a lot of Patricia Cornwell stuff, the Kate Scarpetta stuff, and even though I'm like mainly a fantasy reader, see, as soon as fantasy started to bleed into her books a little bit, it sort of ruined it for me, because, crime is sort of one thing, and, that genre bending, I think maybe because it only started in one place and it kind of ended in another, it kind of went, this doesn't fit tonally for me.
No, sorry.
Oh. No, please go ahead.
I've only read the first few Scarpetta, but I think you need that in from the beginning. I think you need some warning.
Yes.
It can't just appear.
Especially because, like, with spoilers, it was a returning character, and all of a sudden they morph. There's something else about them, and you kind of go, this isn't the character that you introduced in the first place. A bit like you're saying,
There's a great. When I write crime novels, I really, really enjoy doing that. It's just murder mysteries. There's something about them, which is why I wrote a fantasy murder mystery. Which is, well, to be fair, have either of you read the Assassin books? Any of you?
Not yet. No.
They are murder mysteries. That's what they're structured as. The plot of the first one is two assassins sneaking into a castle, and it's a setup, and they're caught by the Queen, and she says, right, you're the best at what you do. Somebody is going to try and murder my son. I want you to find out who it is and stop them. And I just like, okay then. And it's narrated from the point of view of the apprentice, and not for 1 second did I ever think about Robin Hood when I was writing this book, because I can tell you exactly what I was reading and what I ripped off to write it, because I think most writers can. It was C.J. Sansom, if you're interested, whose work I adore, and it has this kind of doom throughout. It's just like everything you're reading, you're just thinking it's not going to end well for anybody. I really like you, but you're not going to get any of the things you want. You'll be miserable by the end of this. But of course, he's a very sulky teenage assassin. So when it came out, a lot of people were going, "Oh, you read a lot of Robin Hood, do you?" I was like, "No, I didn't."
Just because it has assassin in the title, is that literally the tenuous link we're going for?
Well, it is kind of fair. When I thought about it, I can see why you would say that, actually. Yeah, and I met Robin just as I was about to start writing the Bone Ships, and I was saying to her how everybody thinks that I wrote it as a homage, how loads of people think I wrote it as a homage to her, and then I was saying my next book is about ships, and she was just crying with laughter, and I was just going, I'm really sorry, I'm not doing this on purpose. It's just. And she's lovely, right? She's one of the nicest people. I met her in the thing in France.
Oh God, that is great.
Yeah, and she was good enough to read the Bone Ships and tell everyone that she loved it. So that was good. And she's an actual sailor, which is Yeah, she's an actress. She's from a sailing family, and she understands how it works, which I don't. And that people like to tell me I don't.
Don't tell people.
No, it's in the. There's an apology in the back of the book to anybody who actually sails. But I got the. I got the nicest email from a professional sailor, and it said I took the bone chips with me. I just want to tell you that I really, really enjoyed it. I enjoyed everything about it, but you know fuck all about sailing, mate. And then he'd added on, however, you have caught what it feels like to sail, and that is more important. And I was like, whoever you are, I love you. Yes, we can get married. I'll leave my wife, and we will go to sea. And you can nurse me through the terrible seasickness that I will get, because I cannot get on a proper sea-going boat for longer than about 10 minutes. But yeah, anyway. So there you go.
Be your shipwife.
Yeah. You would not believe how many people are also annoyed by the fact that I call the ships he. Oh,
really?
Yeah. Very cross. You can't call the ship he.
Let's be honest, it's 2023. People get annoyed at very, very little these days anyway. So.
It's really funny because I got a very ranty email about the fact that I say landward and seaward and I said, why can't you just say port and starboard? Why must you say landward and seaward? And I wrote back to this place. It's always men. I don't know. There must be like a little club of people who just want to learn about stuff. And I was like pointing out, well, it is port and starboard, because starboard is, according to the etymology, from where you would have like a steering oar on one side of your ship, and it's the steerboard is on that side, and the other side's port, because that's where you dock your ship, because you don't want to wreck your steering oar. So it is literally the side that faces the sea and the side that faces the land. So it was not a clever bit of world building. It was just me thinking I just need a different word. Okay. Well, that's the same word. No one will know. They didn't know, clearly. But you do now.
I'm just imagining, a meeting group of a whole load of men that get in today. Right, Robert, what have you got today? I was reading this book the other day, and you wouldn't believe. Everybody sit down, make sure you've got a stiff drink, and are not holding anything sharp.
But I don't understand why people read stuff when it makes them angry. It's like, mate, pick up another book. You don't have to. No one's making you. You don't have to read it, and you've paid for it already. So I don't mind if you don't read it. You can put it to one side. It's just so. But I did get a letter from a lady who was she was not pleased that Joram was gay, which is not. I mean, it's very gently done in the book. It's not. It's intrinsic to the plot and part of who he is, but it's not about that. If that makes sense. And I had a really long email conversation. It was really nice, and she was clearly from somewhere in America that was very religious, and it bothered her because it was not something she knew, and she didn't. What she was really saying was that she didn't understand why I felt the need to put it in a book. Yeah. And I sort of replied to explaining, and I got this lovely reply back from her saying, actually, mostly when I ask anything like that, people send me abuse, but thanks for explaining, because I understand. Because I've just been saying, well, the reason it's in a book is because that's my life. I have friends who are gay, and I live in a cosmopolitan, multicultural city, and I meet people of all types, and I want them all in my book, because it's lovely to find yourself in and think, oh, that's me. I can be that person.
Representation is important.
It is. It's true.
It is that thing of people who would criticise you for it don't realise that it wasn't a political choice.
No.
To them, they see it as it must have been, whereas you were just kind of.
Yes. Yeah.
It just happened to be, because that is just. Yeah. As I often say, sexuality, all that kind of stuff, is almost like the least important thing about a person that I can think of, like their sex and all that kind of stuff. It's the most inconsequential thing to who they are.
Though the bone chips has just been bought by Saudi Arabia, So I imagine I'm not quite. I'm quite glad I won't be able to read the translation because I imagine they'll change some things. But and I will never know. I'm just going to imagine that won't happen.
Yeah.
But
I'm just very excited to see the covers. I mean, the covers like with that language. That's one of my. I love looking up covers in another language. You know, with the same similarish cover, but with a different kind of Cyrillic font or something.
There's been some really nice covers. One of my favourite covers is the Polish edition of the Assassin books.
Right.
Because usually a cover is not designed around the text. It's designed around what people want to see on the front of a book. So and that's quite a shock for a first-time author when you get your cover and you're like, well, that none of those people are in this book. Like the Age of Assassins has a man in a hood with a knife on the cover, and I was just like, that nobody wears a hood on this. They're literally dressed as jesters. Who is that person? Who is this? And that was what my editor just said to me, it's not about your book, it's about selling this book. But the Polish one, they had read the book, and it is a picture of either him or her on the book. You can't tell, and it's just brilliant. I love it. I use it when I give away bookmarks. It's on the back.
Oh, nice.
There's a thing from the I'll send you all bookmarks. Just bob me an email with your addresses, and I'll send them out to you.
Cool.
So, yeah. But the Bone Ships cover, they got right. You can tell it's right because other countries just use that, which is a bit boring for me. I'm just like, they're not everyone.
It's almost got a design kind of philosophy to it. You know, it's sort of consistent from book to book and doesn't really tell you anything about the book, but sort of creates this like onerous feeling about it that it is sort of harsh because it's very straight lines and that kind of stuff like that.
The German one's really lovely because Tom, who did the map, they bought a load of his artwork off him. So
nice.
And it's sort of gatefold open sleeves when you open the book. It's really nice, massive. Books grow by about a quarter when they're translated into German.
Right.
So that is going to be terrifying if they buy Gods of the Weirdwood. That book won't fit in your suitcase. It's huge.
Yes, I've heard stories about publishers going, you need to take so many words off this because of binding issues.
I've never had that said to me. It's touch wood. But that's because Jenny, my editor, who's brilliant, is on my side. She's just like, no, it needs to be this long. It absolutely, he knows what he's doing. This is, but I don't tell anyone. Always very suspicious of writers that say they know what they're doing. Like, do you really?
So you're not a total planner. Like there may be some planning, obviously, but it's not to the level that.
There's very little planning indeed goes ahead. I usually that's true and not true. When you've done your first books and you want to sell more books to your publisher, they will ask you for a synopsis of the first book and sort of a back cover blurb for the next two. So you do that. You're not particularly held to them. They're there to give an idea rather than having to do that. And sometimes when I start off, I know the end. Like with the Assassin books, I knew the arc of Gerton and the woman that has adopted him, Merila. I knew where their relationship would end in the third book. I knew where it was going. And when I started the third book, I literally had no idea how I was going to get there. I'm just like, oh, there is a blank page here. And then, but I'm a great believer in you sit and you write and you see what happens. And I got to a stage when I broke one of the cardinal rules for the entire trilogy up until that point. I just wrote something. I was like, oh, that shouldn't work. I should delete that. But what if I didn't? That'd be much more interesting, wouldn't it? Let's see where that goes. And that ended up being the brick that I built the entire book on.
Yeah. So,
because that's how my mind works. My mind wants to be pushed, which is why I like being edited, because your editor comes back and says, this doesn't make sense. Take it out. And I don't think like that. I think, well, I'll make it make sense then.
it's my story.
Yeah. But and the Bone Ships was similar. I knew I knew the end of the trilogy, but I didn't particularly know how we would get there. I also knew. Have you read the last one, Burnship's Wake?
Not yet. No, I'm in the middle of the second one at the moment.
In the beginning of the Burnship's Wake, there's a chase. Well, it's not too spoiler, is it? Just a chase, which I knew would be in there because my favourite sequence in all of Patrick O'Brien's Aubrey Maturin books is a ship chase, and I wanted to do a version of it, and that's in there, and it's one of my favourite things that I've written. And usually I'm quite down on my writing, but I like that. And I like it's a really weird thing. Every time I have a new book come out, I always tell my agent and my editor that it's the worst thing I've written. No one will like it, and it's absolute rubbish, and I can't believe I just can I get it back and just do stuff with it. And Jenny, my editor, just says to me, "Do you know you say this for every single book? Every single one you say this." Oh, okay. Well, it is though. This book is terrible. But when I write the bunch, because you write the book and it's awful. It actually is awful, the first version of it. It's really, really bad. And then you go back and you make it good. That's where you put in the clever stuff. When people think, oh, God, there's that bit in chapter 3 where you're referencing that in like chapter 52. What a brilliant bit of forward thinking. And it's not. It's not. It's because you got to chapter 52 and realised, like, oh, God, I need a talking horse. I better go back and put one in when I edit it. So you put your talking horse in chapter 2, and then everyone, sorry writers, I'm showing them how it really is, and then everyone, somebody brilliantly referred to writing as time travel, because if you need time travel to make something exist, you just go back and put it in there, and it's fantastic. But anyway, I was doing that, and I got to the bit in the Burn ships. There's a 3-on-3 ship fight towards the end, and when I was editing that, I found I was holding my breath, and that's the only time my own writing has ever done that to me. And I thought, well, I must have got that right, and I've never felt like that again. It's really annoying. But that was just like, and I think because of that one, it's such a clear image of it, and that was lovely. But usually, I'm just like, this isn't really good enough. I can do better than this. As I always say, I feel like I'm chasing a better writer who's about a mile ahead of me. And I think that's a really useful thing as well, because if you think you're great, then there's no reason to listen to your editor and your agent, and there are a few writers that are big enough not to have to, and I think you can tell.
I think there's a fear if you start to believe that you're great. You sort of get to the place where it doesn't matter what I write, I'll make it great. It doesn't matter how good the idea is, it doesn't matter how humdrum the setting is, I'll make it great because who I am,
But no, I never think that. But anyway, we were talking about plans. Derailed. But yeah, there's very little planning in what I do, and a lot of exploring where I'm going with things, and I often find that your subconscious does a lot of heavy lifting as a writer, and suddenly you'll find that actually, I've just realised where I was going, and I've been writing that for like 20 chapters to set this up, and it is going to work out, and then you can be a little bit less scared. I'm just at that point in the final Weirdwood book where I've had glorious fun with the second and third one, because I don't think from reading the first one you have any idea what's coming. And that's quite joyous for a writer, that I think people are going to pick up and go, whoa, did not see that, hopefully. So, but I'm just at the point where all the things that I've put in the previous 2 books have started to make sense to me, and then I will write it, and I'll finish it, and I'll write the end, and I'll feel really accomplished. And then the next day I will start reading it from the beginning again, and it will be, oh, woe is me, what have I done here, as I fix it. And then edits for the second one will come in, and that will distract me. And it's quite good, because when you get edits for the second one and you're working on the third one, you can sort of cross-pollinate, so you appear cleverer than you actually are. It's quite good.
Secrets behind the the mystery, so to speak.
Only I do this. Every other writer just writes a perfect book.
That gets it.
Yeah. First,
sure.
yeah. It's not secrets. It's just me that's hopeless. Them that are astounding.
I have a quick question that's totally left turn. You say you live you like the Fallout world. Excited for the TV series, RJ?
There's a TV series. Actually,
Yes, apparently it's going to be out this year and all. Fallout 133, I believe, or 113. It's definitely some combination of those numbers.
probably I'll watch it and enjoy it. I'm not. What I like in Fallout is the same thing that I like in Skyrim, which is I like not doing the story but wandering around the world and finding stuff. That's the joy of it, and you don't get that from a TV thing.
That is true.
I'm currently watching The Last of Us, which I didn't bother with because I didn't like the game. But it's really good. It's the series, and shockingly good actually. Even though it's got, I'm not big for scary, gory things, so I fast forward some bits. But it is really good and really well acted. And I'm trying to think what I've watched. We do this. Our Write Up List podcast. If you're a writer, pop along and listen to it because you get to hear writers absolutely failing to talk about writing. We just never get to it. But this is nothing to do with what you've asked. Every so often, we do this. It's just a thing that brings me great joy. We do a thing called the 1-star quiz, which I've noticed has started cropping up in other places, but we started it, and we get writers in, and we have 3 teams, and I lead them, and you have to try and work out what the books are from their 1-star review. I know there's some other there's like a music round and stuff like that thrown in, but just to see if you can do it. This is my favourite one ever. I just love it. I did not. Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I did not like this book. It was smally like a hand. Shocked silences, ladies and gentlemen. That is exactly what they did in the quiz as well. When I asked them.
It's really like a hand.
Yeah. There's no clue there. There's absolutely.
What
Well,
a choice of words is all I'm thinking.
maybe there is a clue, a little clue, but I don't think it's intentional. I think someone was just very drunk when they wrote that.
As all best 1-star reviews
Yeah.
are, I'm sure.
Any guesses, Paromita?
I have no idea.
No, but this sounds like most of my book reviews. Book good. Book read.
Yeah, Paromita
Book
is
bad.
very classically critical of
bad.
a lot of fiction.
I'll give you a clue. I think Paromita's actually mentioned it.
Gormagast.
No,
Damn it.
that's not. That's quite a big book. It's much.
Small.
The
Oh,
I'm
it's the
spluttering,
Philip K.
sorry.
No.
I need to mute my...
So I put you out of your misery.
Yes, please.
Moby Dick.
Oh.
Oh, yeah.
No,
Melville?
no, don't talk like you can. It makes sense.
No,
now.
I would never make that link.
Yeah.
No, for sure. Yeah.
I do wonder whether they're. It is Israel Hand's Moby Dick. It's a long time since I've read it. It's not, is it? Israel Hand's is Treasure Island. I'm gonna have to ask the internet now.
The internet always knows. That's one of the nice things about the internet.
Well, does it though? The internet always has an opinion. I think is
More often than me, that's for sure.
It always thinks it knows, at least.
Somebody will come back very definitely.
No, Israel Hands was Blackbeard's second in command, of course. And I've recently been watching Our Flag Means Death. I should have, which is
Yeah.
It's all pirates were awful, but I do love Our Flag Means Death. It's
I hear it's very good. I haven't seen it, but I know a lot of people that will go to bat for it.
it's excellent. It takes a couple of episodes to find itself, I think. But when it clicks in, it's really good.
Like a lot of techie stuff, I would say.
I know the time always gets away from us, but I wanted to ask. There's something in your bio that I wanted to ask about that I was curious reading it, and that was you have a collection of questionable taxidermy. I wanted to hear more about that.
Yeah, we have quite a lot of it. In fact, my agent was emailing about taxidermy today. He's buying a capybara, and I'm really jealous because I love capybaras and I couldn't afford it. But it's a really odd thing in that we never intended. I'm not a collector. I don't like stuff. But stuff tends to turn up. But when I met my wife, we used to go and visit her parents who lived in Devon. We used to walk past this antique shop, and it had this terrible stuffed fox head in the window. I just found hysterical because it looked like Terry Thomas, the 1950s actor. He had kind of like a sharp moustache and.
Oh.
It kind of looked like a Spiv character, and this fox. To me, it just looked like him, and I just couldn't stop laughing. And my wife took a picture of it, and she made it into an icon for me that I used for ages. And then when we got married, we decided that would be our wedding present because we'd just seen it. So we went and we bought it, and then there was this other creature, this head, and she was looking at it, going, "What is that?" And the man said, "It's an otter." I go, It's not an otter. It's going, no, honestly, it is an otter. And she was like, well, that's my wedding present then. I want that alleged otter. So we bought them, and then everyone that came to our wedding saw us sort of happily showing off our strange animal heads. And then people would get in touch if they saw something weird, and it'd always be really oddly coincidental. Like we live in the north of England, and we don't really go down south very much because my wife's parents have moved up here now. But we were travelling down there as a one-off that we did once a year to see a friend, and we got a phone call from someone we'd met once at a wedding saying, "We've just set up an antique shop, and we think we've got something you'd like." And they were like 150 miles from where we actually live, but we happened to be 10 minutes away from them. And we were like, oh, well, clearly this is meant to be, let's go. So we did, and they had a warthog skull that had come from a museum, and a badger that looked nothing like a badger. And the other guy in the antique shop was going, well, it's a French badger. And I was going, no, it's the European badger. There's only one species. And he's going, no, it looks a bit weird because it's a French badger. And I was going, no. You misunderstand why we like it. We like it because it doesn't look anything like a badger. So we got those, and there's lots of, like, there's Captain Mange, which is a squirrel that you can't touch because its fur just falls off. And there's a lion cub. A lot of them have come from museums who are getting rid of stuff that they're going to put in a tip, and we just said no, don't. We'll still love it even though it looks really manky.
And it's dead.
Yeah, and it's got a weird face. As my wife put it, I've always loved things that look a little bit strange. Thank you, wife. So there's them, and then there was another writer who was getting rid of a leopard skin rug that his great grandfather had had, and he just put on his Facebook saying, "Oh, it seems a pity to throw this out, but really no one would want it in the state it's in." And there was like hundreds of people going, "You should contact RJ Barker." So now that lives on the back of our sofa, and it's like a house full of it. And we also I like antlers. I just always have. So there's quite a lot of antlers in our house because people send those to us. And I like outsider art. We've got this lamp that's made out of old tins and bits of doll that you either like or you're just upset by. There's no in between. So my mum can't look at it. And it's posable as well. You can move its head, so if she goes out of the room and comes back in, I turn its head so it's looking at wherever she's sat. And there's lots of really noisy music because I like really noisy guitar music, and my wife likes really banging techno. So there's an odd.
What a combination!
Yeah, she's a proper goth, and a lot of goth bands turned into banging techno bands. So she really, when you're watching a film and they go to like a leather boy club. and there's a German Leatherboy Club and the music playing in those. That you can guarantee that's probably in her record collection.
Right, yeah.
That's just like the sort of thing
She's recognising
yeah,
it.
it's
for
just
sure.
yeah, I know what this is. So yeah, and it's an odd house as well. And so yeah,
Full of character.
it is. There's a picture of it on my Twitter. I'm sure I put up a picture not long ago.
There you go. If I'm having trouble sleeping tonight,
Yeah.
I shall scare myself to death.
It's
something of that ilk.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of. Hang on. I could email Steve a picture, couldn't I?
Yeah.
And then he can show it to you all while we're doing this, right?
Just and get live reactions.
Yeah.
Oh, this is brilliant. This is brilliant audio.
It is. It's fantastic audio. Yeah. Page chewing Steve. There we go.
That's me.
Reply. Let's see. I've got to be really careful when I send people pictures, because if I send pictures my wife doesn't like, she will complain. She'll be like, "Why did you send that picture? There's mess in it."
Oh yeah.
There's always
My
mess in
wife's
it.
a bit like that as well.
We've got a teenage child. Of course there's mess. Right. There we go. I've sent it to Steve. Come on. No.
I actually think this is the most excited I've been all month.
So yeah, it's gone.
This is the most
Yeah.
scared I've been all month because I scare easy.
I don't think it's. I'm really easily scared. I can't watch horror, and I can't. Despite some of the stuff that happens in my books, I can't watch anything with blood in it. I'm so no.
I can't watch or read horror. I couldn't sleep after
No,
Silence
it's
of the
terrible.
Lambs for 4 or 5 days.
Poltergeist. Yeah, Poltergeist is mine. Halfway through, I was like,
I
no,
ca-
that's very much enough for me. Thank you. I don't need any more of that. We're out of here. Yeah. I'm watching Steve. He's frantically checking his email.
I'm not sure.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah. So it's a room.
Yeah.
Describe it. It doesn't. I don't know if I could quite do that justice.
Yeah, it's a room. There's a lot. It's very monochrome. A lot of black and white, and a lot of stripes, and a lot of dead things on the wall. Chris's face is a picture. It's brilliant. Look at that face.
It's absolutely amazing. Do you know what it's like, actually, RJ? And please take this the right way. Do you know those Cold War Steve photos? You know where they put like Boris
Yeah.
Johnson and stuff
Yeah.
on those? It's a bit like that, except this is real.
Yeah.
And that makes it better. It's amazing. So interesting.
It's apparently, we didn't know, this is apparently a style called moody maximalism, which we'd never heard of.
Right.
And the fire, you can't really see in that picture, the fire's really old, and it's got these green men on it with these heads with like flowers coming out of their beard. My wife, you just see them, decided that this is why I've done no writing for the school holidays, because it was white and she decided that it needed to be black. So I decided that I would strip it back by getting a man to do it for me, which is my favourite way of doing any kind of work. And he came and then she decided that the fire, if we're doing the fire, we had to do the skirting boards, and if we're doing the skirting boards, we had to do the windows, and if they were being done, we may as well paint all the walls. And I was just like, this was not the deal I signed up for. Personally, but it was too late because she's a force of nature. So
The stripes here, the vases, whatever you want to call it. The person on the back of the antelope, I think that is in the top left.
Yeah.
The stripes, the consistent striping through. It's amazing, RJ.
For years, people have seen our stuff and gone to my wife, going, "Oh, you must really like Beetlejuice," and she always just says, "Yes, I do." And then one day somebody said that to her and they walked out and she just turned to me and said, "What is Beetlejuice?"
Just want to say it 2 more times. We're okay.
And I said, it's a film that people think is a goth classic, and it had Winona Ryder in it. She went, "Well, we should watch Beetlejuice so I know what people are talking about when they say it." I've said it 3 times, haven't I? It'll appear, and he won't like what I'm going to say. So we watched it and she absolutely hated it. She absolutely hated it. She liked the stripes, and that was it. But that's she just likes black and white stripes. But I love our our house. It isn't like anywhere else, which is what
It is genuinely fantastic.
It
I have
is.
to say that is a space.
Yeah, the stuff you can't see. Can you see on the fireplace? Right, the fox is there. He's above the fireplace. You might need to edit this out because this is not going to be interesting to people who cannot see it. But you see the beaver there underneath the fox.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yes,
can
yes.
just see that he's wearing a dog collar. and in his paws, he's actually got a little tray with a tea set on it.
Oh, nice.
Because I was doing like a book thing and I got a phone call from her saying I've found this beaver, he's £300 and he needs to be a vicar. Can we buy him? And I was like, okay. And then on the other side, you can see the porcelain baby's head.
Yes.
That is all her, not me. And then a thing on the end of the fireplace.
Yeah, I was trying to work out what that
Yeah,
was.
well, you never will. You never ever will. It's a lion cub,
Wow.
and it's from a museum, and it was originally stuffed in the jaws of its mother, so it was hanging from her mouth. So it's a really odd shape, and I think the actual rest of it had just gone, and the museum had that kicking about. So we bought it, and you can't really tell from that, but it's wearing a tweed suit. And it's in a bath, and it has wooden spoons which it's using as oars because it's rowing its little boat. And then next to it, there's a rabbit with a maid's hat on. There's the there's the warthog.
This is a joke that only RJ will get, but it's almost like Bagpuss. Where are they now? You know,
It's very like that. I think there's a lot of things we watched as children. And can you see the thing with the like sharp nose that's hanging next to the warthog skull?
yes, like the woodpecker thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
We went away, and we're saving up to do some more work on the house. And so as we went away, my other half had been like, "We're not spending any money. We're just going to be a really cheap holiday. We're not spending any money." And then we walked into an art gallery, and we saw that. And it was like 200 quid. And she was just like, I have to have it. I have to have it. I love it. I love it more than anything I've ever seen in my entire life. I love it more than you and our child. I have to have it. So we absolutely failed. And above it is can you see above it? There's a thing that's got like a hat and a bandolier. That was a birthday present for me. And it's a Yeti. A Victorian Yeti. I think it's made out of yak fur. But I got to hold that for all of about a minute before it was taken away from me. Because it wasn't really my birthday present. It was an excuse for somebody else to buy it.
Amazing.
But yeah, there's a lot of strange joy in that room. That's where I do all my writing, so I think that tells you a lot. Yeah. I noticed that Paromita has just gone silent.
I'm digesting, but it is a
wearing the
process.
bowler hat on top of the bureau.
Yes, see it on top. Yeah.
That's the French badger.
Ah.
Yeah, it looks nothing like a badger.
I feel like this is its own podcast episode now, Steve.
It is, yeah. Definitely. We can spend another 2 hours dissecting this room.
Yeah, that's only half of it. You got to remember there's the whole of the half.
We're only seeing one aspect, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. There's the other aspect is slightly less interesting, I think. But
All my wife would say is, "Look at those beautiful windows."
There-
That's all she would. The only thing she would say about that entire picture is, "Look at those. Oh my God, those windows are gorgeous."
they are. We're really lucky in where we live because it looks really grand, but actually it's not. It's just a little flat in an old house that is falling to
Flat
pieces.
with lots of skulls.
Yeah, lots of skulls. It's really good. We've our son. We're both me and my wife were terrified of spiders, and she had this plan that his room was just covered in pictures of spiders that she drew everywhere, so he wouldn't be scared. So we've trained our child to put the spiders out for us. which and it's
genius.
Yeah, and he's not frightened of skulls or anything like that. He's just like, oh, whatever.
Oh, that's absolutely genius,
Yeah.
RJ. I've missed my trick. I think mine are 13 and 15 now. I've definitely missed my chance there.
Yeah, you can start.
It's gone.
Just lock them in a box with lots of spiders. Just short and intense. That's what to do.
Sounds like this sounds like a bit of planning that's going to be needed. How I get the spiders in the first place is seems like the first problem, but
Yeah,
all problems are there to be solved.
I'm 100% sure you can get spiders delivered to you on the internet. I'm just confident that that's a thing.
Obviously.
Yeah, spiders are us. That's definitely a thing. We have overshot the hour by quite a while. I just realised that this is a theme with me.
No alarm went off. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, the Writeopolis podcast we do is an hour once a fortnight, and it's not. It's like 2.5 hours. Because we just
Chance to get together with friends, RJ.
Yeah.
I used to podcast quite regularly as well, and it was the same. We just booked out an entire 4 hours of a Friday evening every week. Yeah, that was it.
It's quite joyous though. I love doing stuff like this and meeting people and talking. I am going to lose my voice soon though, because that is what happens to me. You can't see. I've drunk nearly all my Vimto out of a skull glass.
Oh, nice.
Of course.
But of course, it goes without saying that you're welcome anytime, and we'd love to chat again whenever you're up for it.
I will do it again. If you ever want to do like a formal interview, that sounds more serious than I meant. But that's sort of specifically about specific things rather than just letting me ramble on. Then I'm happy to do that. Or when another book comes out, who knows? Whenever, just pop me an email.
Well, I mean, anytime we can help boost the signal for you, if you just want to come and chat, or we can do a formal interview and be really prim and proper, and
Yeah, I'd wear suits.
Yeah, we can dress up
I haven't got a suit, actually.
Well, at least we'll wear the shirt. I don't know, but we might not be wearing pants, but we'll wear the shirt. But no one will ever know.
That's half the price, though. I mean, that's really in my wheelhouse,
Yeah, because we're trained professionals around here. That's why.
Yeah.
But we had just to complete. This is just a great time, RJ. Thank you for hanging out with us.
Lovely time.
Thank you very much,
too.
RJ.
I'm gonna have to go because I suspect my other half is outside the door.
Oh, just started on Disney Plus, indeed.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. We sure will. Thank you.
Thanks, RJ.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care. All the best. Take care.